Okay, so let's continue inside the Gemara on the top of Samach Beis Amud Beis. The Gemara asks, "Umay Rab Meir." Where do we find that Rab Meir had a conversation directly with Rab Eliezer? Rab Eliezer is responding to him and not responding to the Rabbanan. Tanya, we learned in a Braisa, a woman should not go out on Shabbos holding a key in her hands. If she did, chayeves chatos, she's chayev chatos, carrying a burden on Shabbos. Divrei Rab Meir. Rab Eliezer paiter b'koiveles u'b'tzloiches shel polaiten. Rab Eliezer says she's pater if she's carrying a koiveles, the pouch of fragrance, or tzloiches shel polaiten, the flask of balsam oil. So the Gemara questions this conversation here between Rab Meir and Rab Eliezer. Koiveles mandachar shma. Whoever mentioned Koiveles? Rab Meir in the beginning of the Braisa was talking about carrying a key, and Rab Eliezer responds with a Koiveles. So how do we learn this Braisa? We must say Chsure Mechsere. There's missing here words in the Braisa. V'hachi katani. This is how you have to learn this Braisa. That the Tana Kama Rab Meir said V'chein beKoiveles, V'chein betzloiches shel polaiten. Just like the case of the key, the same is also true with the Koiveles and tzloiches shel polaiten. Leiteitze, she should not go out with it on Shabbos. V'im yotzes. V'im yatzav, she did chayeves chatos. He'll be chayev chatos. Divrei Rab Meir. So Rab Meir's opinion. On that, Rab Eliezer responds. Rab Eliezer paiter b'koiveles u'b'tzloiches shel polaiten. Rab Eliezer says when you have the koiveles, the pouch of besamim, or the tzloiches shel polaiten, the flask of oil, over here he says she'll be pater. That was the conversation Rab Eliezer had with Rab Meir. Now the Gemara brings a continuation of the Braisa. When does Rab Eliezer say that she'll be pater? When there's besamim left over there. But if there's no spices, there's no besamim left, then chayeves. Then she's chayev. She's just carrying an empty packet or an empty flask of oil, of balsam oil. So then she'll be chayev. Amar Rav Ade Barave. So now, based on this last point here in the Braisa, Rav Ade Barave said as follows: Zois Aimeres. What this teaches us is Hamaitzi Eichlin Pachas Mikashir. If you're carrying food smaller than the minimum amount to be chayev, as we'll see later in the Gemara, in the Mishnah, in the Gemara, there's a different shiurim for the amount to be carried in order to be chayev. Whatever the shear is, as we'll see soon. But over here we're talking about a case where a person is carrying less than the shear, and he's carrying it in a keli. The keli is large enough to be a shear, to be chayev. But the halacha would be that the keli becomes tafel to the food that you carry. And therefore, if you pater on the food that you carry, so the keli is also tafel to that, and you're pater. But what do we see over here? Hamaitzi oichlem pachas mikashir bekeli chayev. You're going to be chayev. What's the raya? The Gemara explains its raya. The ha'ein ba baisim, the case that was mentioned in the Braisa, when you have this pouch that does not have any besamim left, kepachis mikashir bekeli dami. It could be compared to a keli that has less than a shear of food inside the keli. Because over here, when you have a pouch or you have a flask that there's no besamim or oil left, it can't be that there's nothing there. There has to be some leftovers. It gets absorbed in the walls of the pouch, or in the it's there. There is something left over. And still, what does it say? V'ketani chayeves. But it says that you're chayev. Why you chayev? Although there's still some remnants of the besamim or the oil left over, but yet you're chayev because you're carrying the keli. So the same thing also, if you're carrying a keli with food inside that's less of a shear, even though you're not chayev for the food, but you're going to be chayev for the keli. So the Gemara says, no, it's not a raya. Ravashi says, Ba'alma, in other cases, a malach pater. I would tell you that if you have a keli, and then you have inside the keli food that's less of the shear, because the food inside the keli is less of a shear. The keli is secondary, is tafel to the food, so you pater. But v'shani hacha, this case is different. The lesse l'mamasha klau. Whatever remnants there is from the besamim or the oil inside this pouch or the flask, there's no mamashas, there's nothing tangible that's left there. There's very, very little and nothing tangible that's left, and therefore you're carrying just the flask or the pouch. And for that you're going to be chayev for carrying it, since there's nothing inside really. So you can't compare the two cases. This is this case over here that it says that if you carry food that's less of a shear inside a keli, that the keli is a shear, but because the keli is tafel to the food, is a dogma, is an example in Gemara that the Rebbe would bring very often, where you see the concept of bittul that Chassidus talks about. That you have something that seems to be a metzias. It's here. You look at it, you see that it's here, and it's a big metzias. The keli is larger even than the food inside, but nevertheless, the keli doesn't matter. The keli becomes tuffle to the food, since the whole purpose of the keli is for the food. If the food is less of a shir, you're not chai for the food, you're not chai for the keli either. It's the same also. The Rebbe would usually bring this as a dogma when they get to the whole metzias of the Welt. The world exists, it seems to be a large metzias, and it's a very, very strong metzias. But if we know what the whole purpose of the world is, that it's secondary and it's tuffle to the purpose of creation for Yidden and Teira, so then we'll realize that it has no chshivus whatsoever, it's tuffle to Yidden and Teira. Now, since the Mishnah brought up this inyan of the oils and the fragrance that women wear, so the Gemara here is going to talk about psukim that in Amos, that gives the Yidden musar for overindulging into Gashmis of Elam Haza, and it begins talking about the oils. So the pasuk there says, "V'reishis shmanim yimshachu," and they anoint themselves with the finest oils. Amar Rav Yudah Mashmol ze pleiten. This refers to this balsam oil that our Mishnah speaks about. Master Rav Yosef asked a question on this. Afa pleiten gozer Rav Yudah ben Bove. Rav Yudah ben Bove made a gzeira after the churban. There were different things that they made a gzeira that you should not use during Golus. And one of them was Rav Yudah ben Bove made a gzeira not to use pleiten. But v'loi hoidu lechachamim. V'loi hoidu, that is, the chachamim did not agree to him. Why did they not agree to him? But if you're going to say that this is the balsam oil that they overindulged in and it's something that gives a person the pleasure, why did the Chachamim not agree to him to include this in the Gzeira of things that you should not do during Golus? For example, one of the things is music. There's a Gzeira against music in the time of Golus. That's a whole discussion about that. We'll learn it in Mitzvah a different time. But the question is, why wasn't this included as well? Amalei Abaye, so Abaye says, and according to your opinion, your question, in that same pasuk further there, when it describes the indulgence of the Yidden and Gashmis, it says, they drink bowls of wine. And Rabami and Rabasi both interpreted what this means. Chadomar, knishkenen, that this refers to knishkenen. What are knishkenen? It's kind of a glass that has two spouts that two people could drink from it at the same time. This is some kind of a trick that they threw the cups of wine to one another. So hachanami, are we going to say that this as well, the aser, that this is forbidden? Since there's a special, unique pleasure in this, is this also forbidden? And the Gemara says we can't say so. It's not forbidden because Rabbi Baravona was by the Reish Galusa, and V'shasa b'knishkenen, they were drinking out of this knishkenen, this cup with two spouts. So we see that it's not forbidden in the time of Golus. Midi, and Rabbi Baravona, they did not say anything to the Reish Galusa that was drinking from this knishkenen. So just like that, they didn't make the gzeira for. They didn't make the gzeira for the balsam oil either. Ella, so what is the pshat over here? Why taka did they not include it in the gzeira of things that should not be done in the time of Golus? Committed is beitainog, something that involves pleasure, so that ve'is be simcha, and it also involves simcha, this joy. So the Chachamim made the gzeira, gozru rabbanon. Avamidid is beitainog, but it's something that has pleasure, but ve'les be simcha, it does not have any joy, like gozru rabbanon. Chachamim would not make gzeira. The difference between Tainug and Simcha is discussed in many places in Chassidus. Tainug is something which is deeper, it's internal, you don't see the excitement and the spilus outside. The joy is a more external excitement that is expressed. So therefore only something that touches a person inside, pleasure, and also brings about exuberance and joy and excitement, b'chitzeni, that's the kind of thing that Chacham will geyser against. Something that's only Tainug and not Simcha, there was no gzeir on this. The Gemara goes weiter and brings other psukim that discusses what the Yidden were doing that brought about the Golus. Hashaychvim, that is, al mitois shein, the sruchim al arsaisam. They lie upon their beds made up of marble, and they're stretched out on their couches. That's the simple title of this pasuk. What the Gemara darshans is, Amar Rabbi Yosi, Rab Chanina, Melamed, Shahayu Mashtinim Mayim B'fnei Mitisayim Arumim. The pasuk is telling you that they would urinate in front of their beds without being dressed. The Sruchim of it refers to urinating in front of their beds. Megadev ba Rabavo. Rabavo did not like this pshat. He said, if so, this that the pasuk over there says, so therefore the Yidden go into the Golus, the head of all Goluses. The Yidden go into Golus because of this. It's taka despicable thing to do, but just because Yidden are urinating in front of their beds undressed, so this is a reason for them to go into such a kind of a Golus. So therefore Rabavo explained the pshat in the Gemara differently. These are people that eat and drink with one another, and then they attach their beds to one another, and they exchange their wives with one another, and they defile their beds with shichva with semen that's not theirs. That's the kind of thing, this kind of a conduct that brings about the golus that Yidden went into. So now the Gemara goes back to what was mentioned before about people that are urinating in front of their bed. Omer Abavo, V'omer Lab Masnita Tane was learned in a Braise. Shloisha Dvarim Meviin Es Adam Lidei Aniyos. There are three things that bring a person to being poor. And one of them is Hamashte, the first one that it mentions there, Ve'elohein, Hamashte Mayim B'fnei Mitase Arum, a person that is urinating in front of his bed undressed. As Rashi brings over here from the Gemara in Psachim, that the minister that's appointed, Lamaila, over the poverty, his name is Novel, which means something which is despicable. And therefore, when a person does a despicable act like this, he draws from this malach that makes him poor. The second thing is if a person does not wash his hands properly. And and a case where a person's wife curses him in his presence. Okay, as the Gemara will now explain all these things, what this refers to. A person that urinates in front of his bed undressed. This is talking about a person that's facing that a person that's facing his bed, he's facing towards the bed. If a person is not facing his bed, he's urinating away from his bed, so then that doesn't matter. Of course, we're talking about that time period when people did not have bathrooms available for them. So if a person's facing away, so then it's not as despicable, and that's okay. But if he's facing towards his bed, that's the problem. Even when a person is facing his bed, that's only speaking about a person that urinates on the ground. But if it's done into a vessel, then there's no issue with it. The next case, a person that's not careful with netilas yadayim. We're speaking about a person that doesn't wash his hands at all. A person that washes his hands and does not wash his hands, meaning he does not wash it with the minimum amount of revius necessary for netilas yadayim, less lamba. That's not the issue that we're talking about here. That does not bring the poverty. V'lav milsihi, says the Gemara, but this is not true. Because Rav Chisda said, I wash my hands with full handfuls of water, and I was given full handfuls of richness. So you see that if a person washes his hands with a lot of water, he becomes rich. If you wash your hands with less water and with less than a revius, that's when you become poor. Okay, so it's very important to be careful with netilas yadayim, to wash with a lot of water. The next case it said over here, a person's wife is cursing him in his presence. What does this refer to? Why is she cursing him? Because of her jewelry. He's not buying her enough jewelry. He's being cheap with her. This, when a person is cheap with his wife and he doesn't treat her and give her what she needs, so midah keneged midah, the Eibishter makes the person poor. When is this said? Who the isle? If he has the money, if he could afford it, so then there's a taina against him. Then he doesn't do so. But if a person can't afford it, so that doesn't refer to such an individual. Sagt the Gemara weiter, Darish Rava Berei de Ravi Loi. The Gemara brings now a related drashis benegeh to a case where the Navi is giving the Yidden Musar about the lack of tznius of the girls, the way they walk out in the Rishus HaRabim, and they're attracting too much attention to themselves. What's the pshat on this that it says in the pasuk? That Vayomer Hashem, the Eibishter said, Yan ki govu b'nois Tzion, because the daughters of Tzion are haughty. Shai mahalchos. It means that they were walking around with an erect posture to draw attention to themselves. Then it says, and they were walking with outstretched necks. What does this mean? They would walk with short steps, and the heel of one foot next to the big toe of the other foot. They were walking slowly to draw attention. Weiter, the pasuk there says, gazing with their eyes. What does this mean? They would fill their eyes with a lot of makeup, and then they would make signs for the men to come and look at them, to attract attention. Weiter, the pasuk says, Holech v'tofayf. They were walking, they were floating. What does this mean, floating? A tall woman that wanted to attract attention to the fact that she's tall would walk next to a woman that's short, and then that's the way she would attract the attention. And with their feet, they spew venom. What does this mean? Rav Yitzchak de Rav Ami said as follows: They would put besamim and the different kinds of besamim, balsam oil, into their shoes. Yerushalayim, and they would walk around in the shuk, in the market in Yerushalayim. It's a B'churei Yisrael, and when they came to the Bachrim amongst Yidden, they would stamp with their feet on the ground, and it would spray from the perfume over them, and they would bring in the Yetzirah into them like an angry snake with venom. So these girls that acted without tznius, and they were attracting attention to themselves, what's their punishment? Mai puranusam. Instead of the fragrance that they were wearing, there'll be decay. The place that they perfume themselves becomes full of decay. Nikpa, that is. Instead of the belt that they were wearing, it will be nikpa, they will be bruised up. They were wearing belts and they were dressing themselves to attract attention. Instead, it will be bruises. And instead of the jewelry that they wear, there'll be karcha, there'll be boldness. The same place that they adorn themselves will now be full of patches. Krachim patches. And instead of the simple taiches, instead of a sash, will be a belt of sackcloth. So the Gemara explains this means instead of psachim hamevin l'dei gila yil machgeire sak. The openings that lead to gladness, it refers to the private parts of a woman, will be girdled with sackcloth. And the pasuk says, Ki tachas yoifi. What does this mean? Omar Rava, Haine Damri Inshi. The pasuk here is saying, like what people say, Chilufe shufre kiba. In exchange of beauty will be sores. So this is the punishment for these girls that are acting without tznius. Now the Gemara goes weiter, and another pasuk that describes the punishment for these women. Ve'sipach Hashem kotkoid b'nois tzion. The Eibusher will afflict the heads of nois tzion. Am Rabbi Yosef Rab Chanina melamed sheparcha ben tzaras. The sipach refers to a tzaras, because ksiv hacha here it says v'sipach. A ksiv hacha by tzaras it says v'lesa'eis v'lesa'pachas. So the word sipach refers to a tzaras. Weiter the pasuk says v'Hashem Pasein Ye'ore, and the Eibishter will cause their openings to pour. What does this mean? Rav and Shmuel, two different interpretations of Rav and Shmuel. Chadama, one says, Shenishpechu kekitan, they will be poured out like a pitcher. The blood of the dam nida will pour out like a pitcher. Chadama, the other says, Shenase pischeim keyar, that their openings will become like a forest, referring to the hairs in the private places. Sagt the Gemara weiter, Omer Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Now the Gemara brings a similar thing, b'negeh to the men in Yerushalayim at that time period that were not acting properly. Anshe Yerushalayim, Anshe Shachat sayu. They also did not act appropriately. and the conversations they had were not sneistic. A person says to his friend, what did you eat today? Bread that was well kneaded or bread that was not well kneaded. Okay, now it sounds very unassuming. It sounds like he's just asking him about his meal, but really what it refers to is he was asking her, was the woman you had a relationship with a virgin or not? Or biyayin gurdali, or biyayin chardali. Was it chardal wine? Was it dark wine or white wine? So as Rashi says of it was referring to the woman. Was she dark or light? B'meisav rochav, b'meisav kotzer, did you recline on a wide couch or on a narrow couch? Again, referring to the figure of the woman. B'chaver toiv, b'chaver ra, was it a good companion or a bad companion? All referring to the woman, was she good looking or not? This was the conversations they were having. Rav Chisda said, v'kulan liznus, and all these conversations were about znus. Gemara concludes, v'amar Rachba, amar Rab Yehuda, Atze Yerushalayim shel kinmein haya, the logs that were used in Yerushalayim for the fuel, in the fire for firewood, was kinmein, cinnamon tree. And then when they would light the fire from this kinmein, so reichan neidav b'chol Eretz Yisrael, the fragrance would go through the whole Eretz Yisrael. But then when Yerushalayim was destroyed, ein nignas, what that is, it was concealed. Only one piece the size of a barley remained, and it's found in the storehouse of this queen Tzimtzuma. That was her name. That was the what happened after the Churban Abayis. Okay, so this is the conclusion of the Gemara for today. Mesayim b'teiv. When a person acts tzniistically and arpiteides, the Eibusher gives us all the brachas in the world that we need. May we see the rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash take it from a yad mamish.